Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. This video is going over the Mastery City Energy Project. If you click on the assignment, there's a whole lot of information here, and this is just to help you summarize it and know what to do, and also provide some hints for the assignment. Before I go over the task, let's just talk about the scenario. So this scenario just talks about the energy uses in California, and then what we're trying to do is Los Angeles wants to improve their energy uses by decreasing non-renewable energy sources like natural gas and focus more on renewable energy sources like solar, wind, or hydroelectric. So before that, I wanted to take a look at the energy usage. Um, in 1 year, we're going to use California for just to have a basis of the energy usage. We use around almost 8 trillion BTUs per year. That's a form of energy, or energy units. If we look at this graph, we can see that 40% of it comes from transportation. So um, this is the main industry that uses energy. So that can be cars, trains, anything you can think of regarding transportation. And the rest are a little bit closer together. Industrial just talks about like factories, constructions, any company that makes things. So factories that creates um, products like iron or whatever, or food factories or anything like that. That all counts for industry. Commercials just talks about like different businesses. So any type of business you'll see on the street. So a food store, 7-Eleven, just a bank, anything that's a building that uses electricity or energy that's not where people live in. So homes is also the residential, which is right here, 18%. So we can see that this is the distribution between the different energy usage in different sectors in California. Now we're going to look at how much energy we actually produce based on different sources. You can see here that natural gas is our main source of energy for electricity. Then we have a little bit of nuclear, a little bit of hydroelectric, and then some non-hydroelectric renewables. This just combines all the other renewable energy. So this combines solar, combines wind, it combines biomass and everything like that. Individually, will probably each be a little bit, but we just combine them together. So what our task is, uh, you're going to design a city, basically just to explain how you're going to use renewable energy sources to make sure that the city limits their non-renewable energy sources. You can use, I let you use whatever format you can do. You can use a Google Doc, you can use Google Slides or PowerPoint, or you can even handwrite it. This can be graded by mastery, and if you get a good score on this, let's say you get a 4, also raised one mastery grade that's based on energy by 4 as well. So this is what you had to answer all these questions in order to get a 4. So right now we're going to assume that we have all the funding and technology we needed. Just assume that we have the tech, we have the money, we can incorporate this. And also the government supports it, but not all the public supports it, which we'll go over for number 5, but let's go over this. So we need to answer these questions, and number 4 has 4 different parts. So there's actually like 10 things you have to do. First, what are the types of energy sources that we focus on for our city? So they can be like solar, nuclear, wind, etc. And why should we focus on them? And explain whether or not they're renewable. So you should know by now that solar and wind are renewable. We have to explain why are they renewable. And then for each renewable energy source, explain how energy is converted from one form to another. So let's take solar panels. How does it take the solar energy, the light from the sun, to change it to electrical energy? If you remember in our past lessons, there was the light causes the solar panel to release some electrons, and then the circuit pretty much absorbs it or takes it in and transfer it to different sources. So stuff like that you can explain. What are the non-renewable energy sources and how should we decrease their usage? Or should we stop using them altogether? This is more of an opinion. You should definitely decrease them, but should we stop using them? So when we look back here, we see the natural gas was the most used. How can we decrease it, and is it important that we decrease it, or should we not use it together? How do we incorporate the renewable energy in each of the following sectors? So when we're talking about transportation, industrial, commercial, residential, how can we incorporate the renewable energy sources you mentioned above to these? So for transportation, cars, um, trains, the metro system, planes, how can we use, let's say, solar power? There's there's electric there's our electric cars already, so maybe you can use solar power to charge those electric power stations. That's something you can think of. Industrial. So how can the factories use renewable energy? So can the factories use solar powers to fill their electricity? Can they use wind energy? Explain that. Commercial, just basically the same thing, but for businesses. And then residential, how can homes use renewable energy? Because a lot of our energy actually comes from power plants with natural gas. How can we make sure we use solar power or any other renewable energies? Why would we not have public support, and how can we persuade the public? So this is what I mentioned before. We may not have public support. I can help you get started on this. Think of Los Angeles. There's approximately, I have here, 6.4 million vehicles in Los Angeles. The majority of them are, I'm gonna say even probably 90% of them are from are cars that use gasoline. So how can we persuade the public to, if you're going to use solar powered cars or electric cars, to get rid of their gasoline powered cars and get electrical powered cars? There's going to be over 5 million people using gasoline powered cars. How can we persuade them, or how can we change it so we can have renewable energy? That's one thing that's can be a common public criticism. And then also, even though we have let's say we have the money and technology, what are the major obstacles about incorporating these ideas? We can do overcome them. So number 5 kind of goes into this, to the number 6. So you maybe mention it here. Another thing you can mention is time uh, and how much people we can to work on improving this. So like, do we have enough manpower to make sure we install solar panels to different houses or something like that? That's for you to decide and explain how can we overcome them. And I just said to provide citations, at least a link to the websites to use. So when you get a website, also right here, if there's a citation here, just at least put the link and I'll be fine for that. And it says, if you want to get started, I have, so you can watch this video, like I said right here. Create your own PowerPoint. You can just go here to get, it's just a blank Google slide and it tells you how to make a copy. Just go to File, once it loads, make a copy. And it doesn't matter for this, it'll be the same thing because there's only one slide. You can make your own Google Slides and you can share it with me or submit it as a PowerPoint when you turn in this project. Same thing with Google Doc. Then I also want to go over the rubric. The rubric is basically similar to what I already went over. Once it loads. Okay, so to get a 4, you just basically have to answer all the questions. But number 4 has 4 parts, like I said, so that's why I said 4A, B, C, and D. They all count as individual things. So if you answer all 10, you get a 4. If you miss at most 3, so at least you do, if you do at least, if you do 7, you get a 3. If you miss at most 6, you get a 4. I mean, you get a 2. If you miss 7 or more, you get a 1. So 10 out of 10, you get a 4. 7, 8, or 9, you get a 3. 4, 5, and 6, you get a 2. And anything lower, you get a 1. So that's the rubric. Right. I hope this helps. So let me give a little bit more hints. You can see here that transportation is the main energy consumption sector. So you really want to talk about how you're going to change cars, airplanes, trains to use more renewable energy. I mentioned before solar powered cars, that's one, or electricity powered cars, that's one way you can think about it. And then natural gas, there's a lot of it that we use for electricity. Is it really possible to completely not use natural gas and focus on non-hydroelectric renewables? So even though this will be very high, can we just safely remove natural gas? That's your decision, whether or not we should still keep a little bit or none at all. And finally, I forgot to mention here are some limitations I talked about. There's 284 sunny days in Los Angeles, so that's how much sunny days you can think about for solar energy. We get a total of 15.5 inches of rain, 34 days a year that is raining. So those are probably days you can't use solar energy. We have the average wind speed in Los Angeles is 7 miles per hour. You need to look up whether or not that's good for a windmill. And we have beaches, and so there's different waves in the beaches, so maybe we can use hydroelectric there. And like I mentioned here, 6.4 million vehicles, and there's 3.3 million households to think about. All right. You can reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll also probably hold a Zoom office hour so you can come in at one time and just ask me any questions regarding the project or even anything else. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.